Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Muscatine Today Show. As you can tell, I'm not Jordan Lloyd. I am Greg Bach. No, I'm not Greg Bach. I'm Chris Anderson. I'm going to be getting you through the morning today. Greg was supposed to be here, but he had a little emergency he had to take care of. So we'll get through the show today. We'll make sure that you guys have some great new information from Muscatine Power and Water. As always, I want to thank our sponsors, Hy-Vee here, of course, Unity Point Health, Trinity Muscatine, MPW, of course. I say, of course, a lot. Holy cow. Wow.
I'll be the grammarian.
Becky Insurance, Toyota of Muscatine, Rivo Plumbing and Heating, Impact Fitness and Nutrition, and Autumn has a great show tomorrow, just so you guys know. Suntan City, Lutheran Living Senior Campus, Impact Life Blood Center, and Harper's Cycling and Fitness. Go down and see Greg, get a bike, get outside, enjoy the crappy, rainy weather that's out there, you know, ride a bike through a puddle, splash everywhere. A couple quick things. There's a Lions Club meeting coming up if you guys want to join that. Reach out to them. There's not a lot on the community calendar yet. Hopefully, one thing, businesses out there, people, if you guys have anything that you have going on in the community, reach out. There's a spot on the Discover Muscatine website up under community calendar, submit an event. You can submit your event for free. We'll put it on the website so you can share it out and help get some attention. And it also let our team know that it's going on so we can help cover it and promote it for you. So with that, I have some guys from MPW here. Holy cow, this is totally weird. Anyway, right. So we're going to talk about a couple of things today. I'll have you guys introduce yourselves with what you do, kind of remind everybody, I know you've been here before, but just so we can have some context about what we're going to talk about, and then we'll dive right into it.
All right. Well, I can lead off. I'm Ryan Streck. I'm the Director of Utility Service Delivery at MPW, and I'm responsible for electric and water delivery to our customers, and the main focus is reliability and quality.
Yeah, and I'm Paul Burback, Energy Services Advisor. Handle a lot of the rebate program and the residential solar applications.
You know, it's funny, I always thought your last name was Bunyan. I'm sure that's probably not the first time you've heard that. So one of the things we talk about a lot when we work with MPW, and actually a lot of customers of ours have talked about this, is what energy looks like going forward. I mean, obviously you guys have got a lot of plans, a lot of things are changing, and so one of the big topics that always comes up with that is renewable energy. And so from you guys' perspective, what all do you think about when you think about renewable energy?
One thing I'd say we think about is not just, I mean, a clean environment and a great future is part of it, but it's also responsibility and sustainability. We can go 100% renewable, but it's going to cost a lot. And so what we want to do is maintain that affordability as part of that package. And I always try to look long term. We want to get to this place, but we want to do it in a way that everyone can afford and is balanced. So that's on our minds.
What do you think about it, Paul?
You know, I guess from my perspective, with residential customers looking more and more at renewable energy as an option, I want to make sure that they are making wise decisions based on facts and not maybe just a sales pitch that they've heard. So really the focus for me is making sure those customers are making decisions for the right reasons.
Makes good sense. One thing, Ryan, you mentioned is, you know, you can go 100% renewable. There's costs associated with it. And of course, we all know the costs on everything go up every year anyway, right?
Yeah.
So what are some of the key things that you guys do to help control costs on behalf of all of us that use MPW power?
Well, I guess one of the main things is just make good decisions. Part of our strategic plan is to invest responsibly. And really, we have to look at costs because we're a not-for-profit. We don't have shareholders that we're beholden to. And so at the end of the day, we invest what we need to keep the system highly reliable. And then if we need additional funds, we have to increase rates. So we're always trying to balance, how can we work smarter? How can we work more efficiently to keep those rates low? Because Again, stakeholders, profits isn't part of the equation. It's keeping those rates low, but we do have to maintain some semblance of reliability and keep those lights on. So it's always keeping those things in mind.
Yeah, I can't imagine shopping in a dark Hy-Vee. That would seem a
Right.
little weird. So there's a bunch of different renewables out there. What all do you guys see as like potential solutions for both the utility, businesses, commercial scenarios, and residential? And like, is there a preferred one? Like, do you have anything that you see as like, oh, I'd really like people to use this? Or is it situational? How do you guys approach that?
You know, when I look at renewables, there's a lot of things that are renewable. There's like geothermal, where like you have a hot spring you can tap into to create steam and turn a turbine. We don't have those here. Wind's really popular, more out west. It seems windy here at times, but I'm actually from the Sioux City area, and it's crazy out there. It is always blowing, and so it makes sense. That's where the windmills are. I'd say in Muscatine, I'd be curious to see what Paul thinks, but one of the resources we have that works well is solar. I mean, solar works anywhere the sun shines. And so while this is in Arizona, it's definitely a resource that's easy to tap. We don't all have enough property to put several windmills on. We don't have the availability to do some of these things, but we all have a rooftop.
I
And that's
have
where
an
solar
idea.
works.
Mitch is here. From the marketing standpoint, I think I have an idea. I think what MPW could do is go buy every citizen like an acre and a half of land and put a windmill on it for them. And that could be like your gift to the community. That I'm getting shot. I guarantee you, Erica and they're all just shooting daggers at me right now.
Again, I think we're going to have to reflect that in our rate structure.
Oh,
And in the end,
Get you every time.
And that's really the way we think is if we're spending money, we're spending our customers' money, because even if it's $1, it has to come through rates. So that's why I'm going to say probably no to that
probably no.
request.
But there is the Solar One project though, which
There
is sort of kind of like that in a way. And I think, Jess, do you actually have, you've got the slide for Solar One. I think it's slide 3. Could you bring that up real quick? Could you tell us a little bit about Solar One, what you guys are doing? Kind of, instead of giving us all our own solar panels, you're kind of just put them all together, right?
Yeah, that's a great segue into this. We're looking at doing a 24 megawatt solar farm down on the corner of Highway 61 and Dick Drake Way. And where that works out really well is it's the economy of scale. If you put in several small installations, it runs up the cost because you have mobilizations, more labor in different spots. You can't use the same buswork, can't use the same connection to the utility. So if we build one large one, it reduces those costs and makes it more viable. And we just happen to own 240 acres down there where our well field is.
That's not enough for an acre a person yet. You're gonna need more.
But it's 5% of our load.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
so-
would,
that
I've
works
toured
out
the area down there where that's going to go, and it's big, but it doesn't feel enormous. So I didn't remember catching that 5% of load. I mean, like, it seems that, like, I know I've heard numbers like if we did solar, we'd have to have like enough, we'd have to like cover the entire town with panels to fuel us, but like that seems like a decent chunk.
Yeah, and it's a little deceiving because that piece of property is what, if it's behind me, it's kind of a pie shape, so it gets bigger as it goes out. But 240 acres, I mean, that's, a square mile is 640, so about a third of a square mile of
God.
ground.
Doing math on the show
on
in
the
his head.
show.
Look at this.
Is that close, Paul?
Hey, that's cool.
It's close enough for us. Like,
The other thing is,
we're not fact checking.
that chunk, okay, let's not do that. That chunk of ground actually has our wells under it. A lot of our wells where we get the water
Oh,
from
right,
the city.
yeah.
So that's not somewhere we let people put fertilizer, herbicide. We don't want to contaminate the water. So it's not really good producing ground from the perspective of growing crops. So when you think about putting a solar farm there, it's prime ground for that.
I mean, it's not like you could do anything else with it really at that point. I mean,
Yeah.
So as we look at, those are some more of the like utility scale things. Obviously, nothing is perfect, whether it's coal, whether it's solar, wind. What do you, maybe Paul, what do you think about the renewables' ability to replace fossil fuels? And what do you think that, like, can we use it all the time? Like, how does that transition look? Like, what do you see that looking like over the next couple of years, or ideally, what would it be, do you think?
Yeah, well, I guess it's difficult to say how that would work for everyone. I'm going to put a shameless plug in for energy efficiency. What customers can do at a relatively low price is energy efficiency. So the less energy a home or business is consuming, the less, say, renewables you would have to add. So that is the first step that I would recommend for a homeowner or a business. Look at ways of cutting your wasted consumption, and then start looking at, if you want to go to that next step with renewable energy, is reaching out to a contractor and getting quotes, getting multiple quotes, verifying those customers or those solar installers' credentials. So reaching out to the Better Business Bureau's website, checking, what kind of a rating do they have? Are they a reputable developer? Is it somebody you want to work with? Have they had a lot of negative reviews? Those types of things.
So what I think I heard, though, is let's not trust Muscatine Community Chat for all of our info on solar. Is that right? Like, I feel like between you guys and the installers, we can probably find some solid sources for people to get good information on the subject. And, we were talking just before the show, Ryan was mentioning, like, each one, like, just even in solar, whether it's utility level, whether it's commercial, whether it's residential, each one of those is its own thing. And each one is different, it's complicated, and especially when you get down to individual homeowners, the variability is crazy. How much roof space do they have, or yard space? Can they angle it the right way? And those are just the things that I know about, and I'm sure there's way more than that. So, this is definitely a time when you want to trust the experts. And obviously MPW's got a bunch of them floating around. Paul's been great. We actually have a how-to crew video that you did from MPW. I think, can we show them that real quick? It's just a quick little overview. Actually, why don't we do this before you play it, if you haven't already? So I'm not super great at these segues yet. No, what? We're good? Okay. Could you kind of tell them what they'll see in the video?
Yeah, well, the how-to crew video is a 1-minute video to get customers to reach out to us early in the process. So after you've maybe visited with a solar developer, before you sign any contracts, make sure you reach out to us. There are things that we need to do. There's an application that we need you to fill out. We have engineers that work on making sure the transformers, the equipment that we have feeding your home are properly sized. So before you get too deep into a contract, make sure you reach out to us first.
Well, I think that's pretty much everything in the how-to crew video, isn't it?
He looks so good.
He looks so good. Let's go ahead and show it to him anyway. This is also available on PCTV Channel 3 for you to catch if you need to, but here you go.
Hi, I'm Paul, your how-to crew expert, here to talk residential solar. Some solar developers are going around selling packages to homeowners who are looking to save money on their electric bill. Adding solar may not be the answer to saving money. Do your homework. Get multiple quotes. Ask a real estate agent to do a market analysis of your home with and without solar. Talk to your tax advisor. Also, be prepared to ask the developer the right questions, such as, how much out of pocket will this cost me? What will my monthly payments be? How many years am I committed to this contract? Are you accredited by the Better Business Bureau or have other references? Do your homework before negotiating, and don't sign a contract without getting answers. MPW is currently working to build a large solar array ourselves, so the utility supports the adoption of renewables and distributed generation. But we don't want there to be any surprises to our customers. So call MPW early in the process. Each utility handles solar integration differently. Developers may not know our rates and service rules or how our approval process works. Because the sun doesn't shine 24/7, you will still need to be connected to the grid for a reliable system. Batteries and generators are options, but they're expensive and not very practical. We use a two-way meter to track your usage and any excess energy you send back to us. Your utility bill will show credits, consumption, and the monthly facility charge. If you're thinking about solar, call me to help answer these and other questions to ensure a smooth and positive experience. Remember, before you buy, verify. Thanks for watching the MPW How To.
Okay, I've got to stop laughing when we come back because I feel like you guys are going to think that we're just like talking about the audience or something. But actually what we were talking about was what the savings looks like long term and how you would go about like figuring out is solar for you or is a renewable for you. And before the show, we were also talking about, you know, I've got a building downtown, obviously, at the Pearl City Media office. Nice big flat roof right behind City Hall. There's a couple people have said, hey, that'd be a good place for solar. It probably is, right? My mom's got a house on Mulberry. And so what I thought we'd do is just like, okay, Ryan, what does that look like? I mean, I know there's tax credits out there still, I think. You know, there's a payback period that we're going to want to think about. Like, obviously, there's an upfront investment. I'm assuming electricity is not going to be free, no matter what I do. So what does that kind of look like? What are the things that you see coming across your desks that are like, hey, here's things I want people to know?
So that's a mouthful. I'll do my best. There's a lot of questions in there. First off, it's not a level playing field. By my count, there's seven different utilities serving Muscatine County. And so for people watching this, I know it's a larger audience than just Muscatine. You may not be served by MPW. I was telling Paul this earlier. I thought about this morning. If I buy a high efficient furnace and I live in Fargo, North Dakota, it's going to run all the time and I'm going to get a payback pretty quick. But if I put that same furnace in Arizona, it's not going to run much and I'm not going to see that payback for years. It might be I never see that payback. Well, that's what I'm talking about with different utilities, different rates. MPW has very low rates on a national level. And so when you look at, say, California, where the average rate in February was 26 cents, and then here you're looking at 0.98 or 9.83 cents, it's going to take 3 times longer to pay back here. So when you see those ads that say you're going to see a 5-year payback, they really should say you're going to see a 5-year payback in California with on-peak rates of maybe 40 plus cents. But in Muscatine, at 9 cents, that's going to be a very different equation. I won't try to do that math. But you know, even here in Muscatine, the service territory it's pretty jagged. We've got apartment complexes where 2 of the buildings are served by MPW. One of them is served by our rural neighbor. Well, the rural neighbor on peak has 16.5-cent rates, so almost double what we are. So I don't want to try to present that. I don't think developers are being honest. I think it's a big ask to try to get solar developers to understand all the complex different rate structures and policy when it comes to putting solar on their building. So I guess that's a long-winded way of saying, even if you pay us a bill, you may just be a cable or water customer. Find out for sure who your provider is, and then we can start with this guy, because he's going to be really good at saying, okay, I do know MPW's rates, I know their policies, this is what the developer said, that passes the sniff test or that doesn't pass the sniff test.
Yeah, we really want to be a resource for our customers. So we know they're going to reach out, they're going to ask some questions. They might not ask all the questions that we think they should and all the questions that we think will be helpful for them. And so by them reaching out to us, we can take information that the solar developer has provided. And as Ryan mentioned earlier, not every solar developer knows what our rates are, our net metering program, and every utility has different net metering programs. So it's good for them to reach out to us so we can verify what they're being told by the developer. And we can place that information on a spreadsheet. We can look at our rate structure, what we anticipate our rates looking like in 10 years and in 25 years. And yeah, that 5-year payback that they're being told might be more like 19, or there might not be a payback at all, and that all depends on, there's things like interest rates. Are you taking out a loan for this? What is your interest rate? What is that term? And those are all questions we can help you with.
Real quick,
Yeah.
you mentioned tax credits, and that sounds easy. If I spend $30,000, I'm going to get 30% back.
Right.
Well, it's a non-refundable tax credit, so you have to have the tax liability to be able to monetize that credit. And if you can't do that in 1 year, that's going to drive that initial rate up, so it's going to be higher than you expected. There's a lot packed into just 3 or 4 questions, and like Paul said, and this is why I've coined a new phrase, better call Paul. He's familiar.
I love it.
Thank you. But
Mitch.
He's wrestled with these things, and he has the calculators pre-built on spreadsheets, and he can really make sure you're getting what you're paying for. And we want you to. We want to be a solar partner.
Well, and I think one thing that when I first looked at this, I don't know, a handful of years ago, just like my first instinct was, oh, just take how much I'm paying, do some quick math, life's fine. But you brought up a net metering function that I think is something that if people understood it a little more, or once people get told about it, they're like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. So could you take a quick second and kind of, what is net metering? Like, how does that work?
So, as I mentioned, every utility has a different version of a net metering program. Ours is very favorable to customers, and we're happy about that. We like that. We are encouraging choices for our customers. The way the net metering works is if you move forward with adding solar to your home, we do our engineering studies. We make sure that the equipment that we have in place is properly sized. Once the system is live, we install a bidirectional meter. That meter will record every kilowatt hour that you consume from us. It'll also record every kilowatt hour you push back onto the system. And so it rolls forward or backward depending on whether you're consuming or delivering to us. And then we carry that over. So assume in May, when the sun is shining and you're not using your air conditioner, maybe your electric load is lower at that time of year, you might be building up a credit in your bank, and we are essentially your battery storage for you. And so that energy gets pushed onto the system. Somebody else is essentially using it, but you're getting that credit. Then in June, if again you overproduce, that bank continues to grow. And then in July, when air conditioning is kicking in and you're consuming more electricity, that bank is there for you, and you start using those credits. Then at the end of the year, we true it up. So that solar customer can use their energy whenever they need to, whenever they have the need for electricity. As long as they've had that credit, they get to use that energy anytime throughout the year. Then at the end of the year, we true it up, we put that at 0. If you have excess energy that you have generated, we issue a credit at our avoided rate. So you will get a credit on your bill in February. And then we start the process over.
One thing you mentioned there that I think is also really important is, you talked about, maybe February, you're generating more than you need, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's got to go somewhere. You guys can help distribute that, make use of it, which is great. Mm-hmm. But I think the more critical part is the June, July, right? Where you're maybe using more than you create, right? And so how often do you see people actually, can anybody ever actually be 100% self-sufficient without you guys? Like, is that even a thing? It doesn't feel like you could do it.
I took a look at batteries last week because that keeps coming up. Well, I'll just get a battery and I won't need that grid connection. And like a Tesla battery, a common size is about 12 to 14 kilowatt hours. And for that battery, you're going to spend about $8,500 and say another $1,000 to install it. I just like round numbers for math. About $10,000
That's called 10 grand,
to put this in. So that comes out to around $83 a month for that battery. But assuming the tax credit doesn't apply to the battery, I'm not sure if it does. But that battery, they'll even tell you it's there for essential services. So they say during a blackout, a house will use like 800 to 1,000 watts of energy. Well, that's a refrigerator and a few lights. That's not your air conditioner system. If you were to run your air conditioner system in the middle of July because you're solely on battery and don't want to be part of the grid, and today the sun's not shining, you're going to deplete that battery in less than 2 hours. So now you spent roughly $80 a month on this battery, and it did not get you what you were hoping to be off the grid. And Paul's got a story about someone who does manage that off grid. But with us, you get a facility charge of $29 for our solar net metering rate, and you get a battery with unlimited storage, unlimited supply, 99.9998% reliability, which is where we are for the year right now. I know it's early in the year, but last year we had a great reliability as well.
Way to stack the numbers there.
And thank you. And you get all that for $29 a month for a facility charge. So it's a great, a very reasonable way to engage us as a partner in the solar and make that really work well for you.
Well, what I think I heard you say, and I think, Paul, this is probably what you'll speak to a little bit, is, there's times when going it alone makes sense, right? Like, and not just in power or anything else, but there's times, and everybody makes these decisions on a ton of stuff, right? Do you work with somebody that does it? Do you get your own groceries? Do you have Hy-Vee deliver them? And there's always trade-offs, right? And what I think I heard, just doing some rough math, I mean, if you're talking $29 a month compared to $8,500 up front, and it doesn't even get me 2 hours of air conditioning, that kind of seems like a no-brainer to not try and manage this myself. I mean, is that kind of, Paul, what you see? I mean,
well, yeah, I think it's personal choice, of course.
Right.
The story that Ryan alluded to earlier is a family in Utah that homesteads. And so, if that's the style of life you're looking for, then you just have to make some decisions based on usage
Anything else
and
you
how
want
you
to talk
want to live
about?
your life. But yeah, for us, what we see, a normal customer using electricity, running their air conditioner throughout the day, that system might not keep up. So having us as a backup to provide you with that energy seems to be the wise choice.
And we're early in battery development. There's so much focus on it. I really think batteries are going to get better. Right now they're saying a battery is going to last roughly 10 years, and they estimate it'll have 75% of its capacity at the end of that 10 years. So the whole time you own it, you're getting less and less capacity in it, and you're going to have to replace it again in 10 years, and will there be a credit available for it then or not? And what will the price be? There's a lot of risk out there with batteries.
well, and so a little bit of a learning question here. So if I'm not mistaken, and don't get into details with me on this, but these batteries, like the household batteries, aren't they essentially like a large laptop battery? Because our laptop batteries do the same thing. Like you get a laptop, and I'm not talking like lithium, just like general concept, right? You get a new laptop, the thing runs for, all day and it's perfectly fine. 2 years later, you've lost capacity, and all of a sudden you're like, what's going on? You got to get a new battery. Maybe you can put it in, maybe you can't. I mean, this really just seems like the same. Now, granted, and cell phones are the same way. We all know that the batteries aren't as great as they were, or they're way better than they were 5 years ago, right?
Yep.
But they still degrade. They still don't have that like perfect life expectancy of until the phone breaks, right?
Right, and again, where they really shine is if you could say charge it up in the morning and then discharge that battery during your peak usage when the utility's at a peak rate and it's pushing back against that 40 cents, that battery can bring a lot of value. Our rates are 9.83 cents all day long. There's no peak. So it just, again, it goes to work against incenting it. I mean, we're big fans of renewable. We want to support renewable. Paul spends a ton of time working on renewables, but in Muscatine with that low rate, it's just not going to work as well and push back and get you that payback as quick as it would somewhere else. And that's great. We just want you to know that up front.
Right.
It's all about knowing up front what you're getting.
Well, and I think I've had this conversation with a couple of people in this arena is, okay, yeah, you see, California, you get a payback in 5 years or whatever. Every time I've looked at it, it seems to be somewhere in the 12 to 20 year category, depending on, and that's just totally, guys, that's my numbers. Don't quote me on any of that. They could probably be just as wrong as they are right. But that's still, in some ways, if it's something that you want to commit to, if it's something you believe in, it's not the end of the world. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly. There's other
it's-
drivers behind
right.
besides
And
financial.
I think, at least for us, we kind of look at it every so often. I know my cousin is looking at it for some rental properties potentially to help alleviate some of the stress for his tenants and some stuff like that. So I think there's always way more to it than just the dollars and cents. And there's like, you guys have the choose green function, right? So we all know that renewables cost more. That's just what it is, right? And so there's a bunch of ways you can handle that if that's what you want to be doing, right? So is there anything else you guys want to make sure that people at home know when it comes to renewables, when it comes to the solar processes? Is there anything that you've seen that's been awesome, that worked super well, something that didn't go well?
Well, I think when we get involved early, the process goes smoother. We have had situations where I think we have some customers that have regretted not reaching out to us sooner because of some issues they've had. I would recommend that you reach out to your tax advisor, make sure that you have that tax appetite to take advantage of that full tax credit, whether that is in year 1 or by year 5, and you have 5 years to claim that. Reach out to a real estate agent, have them do a market analysis of the home. There's a lot of talk in California where homes resale value is more with solar. That's not always the case here, and it might not be beneficial to you. So reach out to a real estate agent, have them do that market analysis, and then a financial advisor. Ask them, is this a good investment for me? They can run the same numbers that we do, and that might help you as a homeowner make a good decision.
I'll just share one quick story, and I'm just trying to drive home the point that Paul has all the stories. He's heard them all. Long after the developers are gone, we're the ones that are answering questions, and we want you to get those a tip as to what to expect and what could go wrong. Story I have is I reached out to one of our homeowners that put it on their house. They put it on their house in, I think it was June.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
I love the fact that he knows what story you're telling. You haven't even had to tell him, and it's just like, yeah, I know what the story
These stick
is.
with you, and you feel so bad for these customers because they were expecting this win, and they don't get it all the time. But this particular customer put their solar on in June. Well, what does that matter, right? Well, we talked about how we true up in February,
right.
And then you can bank these kilowatt hours through the meter, and then when you go to air conditioning season, you can pull them back.
Well,
and so you can pay your air conditioning
Ooh,
bill.
can I take a guess where this is
Sure.
going? I think since it went in when it was in the highest use period, they were expecting, hey, no utility bills through the summer, but they couldn't keep up with what they needed for June, July, August.
You're dead on. The system was sized appropriately, but it figured it was going to be running all year. So when we came to peak air conditioning season and it was a hot year, this guy is now paying his solar bill. Plus, he's writing us a check for all the kilowatts he needs. So he ends up with a double payment. Now that'll work out eventually.
Right.
And he's still happy with the system overall, but it's just one of those things, I wish I would have known that up front. And we've got those stories to share.
Well, and I think this is the biggest thing when it comes to projects like this, and I've been through a bunch of them. And one of our good family friends does similar to what you do, Paul, over in Illinois. And I think the biggest thing when it comes to stuff like this is just expectation management, right? It's really great when you see this concept of solar or geothermal or whatever it is that you're looking at, and you always think about, okay, here's the best it could be, right? And I always try and think about, okay, that's the best, what's the worst, right? The worst could be, even worse than a cash flow issue, it could just not work, right? And then you try and figure out, okay, what's most likely in the middle, right? And I think the one thing that I've found is just getting the experts in early is almost always the right answer. I like to think I'm smart, and I can guarantee you now that I said that out loud, the comments are going to go crazy and it's going to look horrible for me by about 11 o'clock. But I like to think that I try and think through things. And when it's not my area of expertise, I still miss a ton of stuff, and I'm trying, right? So I definitely love the concept that you guys are open to, hey, you're starting to kick the tires on it. Reach out, talk to Paul, talk to the team, and find out like what should you be looking at. And again, like you said, most of this stuff isn't deal breaking, right? Like that cash flow thing of June, right? He'd probably still make the same decision, right? But it feels better if you knew what was going on. And I think that's the lesson from all of this is just take a little bit of time and learn. If it's going to be, I mean, I think some of the systems we were looking at 20, 15, 20, 30 grand. I mean, solars are big investments for most people. Research it like you would a car. Make sure you know what you're getting.
Yeah. And unlike a car, this is going to be with you for 30 years. So
True.
to get those paybacks, or probably more like 20. We see a lot of these pencil out around 20, 22.
25 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which, again, for most people is an acceptable thing. You know what I mean? As long as you know that going in.
Well, I love your point. It's no surprises. Nobody wants surprises. You want to have it laid out, and it's a lot of work to dig through these and understand it all. And a lot of people, they get caught up in the hype. Well, I don't want a bill. But then after it's all said and done, here comes the bill.
Right. Well,
That's not the time to call Paul. It's much earlier.
I'm really loving this Better Call Paul thing. I'm really loving that.
I'm pretty proud of it, Chris.
And we'll make sure that you get credit on that everywhere, right?
It could be a copyright thing. Let's not bring it up.
Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Better to ask forgiveness than permission, though, right? Wait, no, that's not a thing. That's not a thing. No. But I think that's going to do us for today. I mean, unless you guys have anything else major. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you for putting up with the B team here in the host seat today. I wish we did some behind-the-scenes cameras so you guys could have seen Chris and Jess laughing at me. I've helped host for a long time. I've hosted other stuff, but this is the first time I've been in this seat. So hopefully it was at least semi-tolerable for you guys all out there. At least based on those two's reaction, it was entertaining, if nothing else. So thank you all for watching, and hopefully I won't be sitting here tomorrow, and we'll see you then. Have a great day.
We've all been through a lot together, and along the way, you'll find out who really cares for you and who you can trust. Because there's a lot of stuff that happens in life, like those days when the amazing happens, or those days that are really, really hard. That's why you need someone like Unity Point Health. Because when it comes to your health, you gotta have someone you can trust. Unity Point Health. Know how